Good morning, all. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, yes.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good
Thanks.
morning,
Good
Ram.
morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And today we will be talking about the OSPF, Open Shorter Path First. It's a protocol, and we're still using this. And this is the one that which has been implemented in the internet service providers environment. And the last week I couldn't give any kind of the sessions as such because there was a function at my home, so couldn't do that. So this week I started again. So previous week I was talking about that CompTIA Cloud Plus. That is about the cloud certifications, because nowadays the cloud is so much in demand. And whatever the cloud which we are going to work on, like either it is in AWS or Microsoft Azure or the Google Cloud, every other cloud has got some networks, IP addresses, subnettings, protocols, routers, everything has been involved. Because without that network, we will not be able to do any kind of, the applications cannot be running in that network or something. So we require the network, basic network need to be built up, and we require to make the connectivity between the on-premises and to the local data centers to the cloud service provider network. We are able to create our own network in the public cloud. That is been allowed because there is a concept of the virtual private cloud concept is there in all the major clouds, and as well as in every other cloud also. Even though that is a public cloud, means we can create our own we can create our own private clouds on that. So when we are creating the private cloud, in the sense, as a network engineer, I've been as a technical architect, which my core skills are into the networking only, means routing and switching. Then I developed many other things which is required by the like the demands which is coming from the market. So we started doing a lot of things, and I work much in with the ISPs also locally in India, that Reliance Jio, Bharti Airtel, Spice Networks, like many other internet service providers I used to work with them. So when it goes with an internet service providers, in the sense, the network is so huge, and there are a lot of projects are happening day by day. In a week, I will be commissioning near about 10 to 15 customers into the OSPF network, into the service provider. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic, else I will be muting you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I was talking about that internet service provider internal network. When it goes to their internal network, in the sense, there is a lot of projects which are happening on day to day and weekly and monthly. There will be a lot of commissioning will be done. New lease line connections, broadband connections, international connections, and everything we have to work on that. All the whole core routers we just need to work on. When the project has been getting commissioned, in the sense, we will be having a lot of chance to work with that kind of protocols on OSPF as well as the BGP also. I guess I given the BGP already, but anyway, I will plan it out for the next one. That was a basic BGP which I given on that. I'll go for something on an extended maybe by the next coming up weeks on this. So today we will talk about the OSPF on this. So in ISP network, the OSPF is very much integral part. It's ISIS also. There is one more protocol called ISIS, intermediate system to intermediate system. That is another protocol. So these two protocols are very much utilized in the internal networks of the ISP. And why I'm stressing on ISP, in the sense, because of the volume of the routers can be integrated into the OSPF protocol is there is actually no limit for that. We can even keep on adding the new equipments, new routers, new networks integrations, new areas creations. Like we can do a lot of things on this OSPF. It is very much vast. And it can take its own databases like that. It can create its own database, and it can accommodate any other new devices which is coming up into the network. And the most beautiful part in the OSPF is that this is an open standard protocol. Open standard in the sense, any branded router can talk on OSPF to talk to any other brand or something. I can say that Cisco can talk to Juniper, Juniper can talk to D-Link, D-Link can talk to the HP, and Avaya, any other networks, whichever you're talking. So this is about the open standard. So we have to know about the OpenStack network. Maybe like some of the commands are different between the vendor-based commands or something different, but in core, the OSPF is working as an OpenStack network. How it has been treating the neighbors, how it has been making the neighbors, and what are the parameters it is looking for that to become a neighbor, and how soon the neighborship will be formed, what sort of requirements are that for to become the neighbor. After making the neighbor, what is the next step is happening? That is nothing but a database creation. It will do that. Based on the databases only, it will be creating the next the routing table like that. So there are 3 tables which are created. One is a neighborship table, which is the very much criteria which are there. We are going to discuss that later. So once the criteria are met, then the OSPF will form a neighbor with another router, which is the adjacent router. Then like that, everybody will be becoming a neighbor with everyone by running that OSPF hello protocol and the timer matching and other things, subnet matchings, area code IDs, authentication protocols. If everything is matching properly, then they will become the neighbor on that. So later they will be creating the databases of their own. Database creations is nothing but like a topology mapping creations of them. Where to reach what? How do I reach that? How do I reach the network which is in US? How do I reach the network which is in Singapore? And what all the hops are there? Means like how many jumps I just need to make to reach that US network, and how much jumps I just need to take it back to come back to the Singapore. How far it is a location? How many milliseconds it must be taking on that? And what are the other parameters are? How many networks are being advertised by that particular router in Singapore, as well as in New York, US, maybe in London, London, as well as in Bombay, in Bangalore, whatever the city which you are going to install it on that. So it will be creating its own database table. Based on the database table, we'll be finding out something, the best of the routes which has been given up on the, it's been coming up in the routing tables or something. So the routing table will be the final table which has been created by the OSPF. So the OSPF will be based on those routing table entries only, it will be sending the packets to the destinations. Here, the OSPF is so vast and it cannot be managed so easily, and we require that very much hard work to understand that terminologies and the working behavior, and as well as the commands are very much required for you to remember the commands to see that, and how the outputs are given for that. When I'm typing that show IP OSPF neighbor in a Cisco router, so what is the output which has been given on that? There are many columns maybe there in the IP OSPF neighbor command. So how to read those columns? What columns are saying about what information is on that? What are the minute information we just need to see that? What is the state of that particular neighbor? Whether it has been a full state, or they are in extort, or there some other states are there. When states, in the sense it is going through some other states to become a full neighborship with the neighboring router, like that. So many things we just need to see. Then once the neighborship has been confirmed and it has been perfectly working on this, then we'll go to the database table on this. We can run the command in the Cisco router that show IP OSPF database we can run. Once you are running that, you will be seeing multiple areas will be shown, multiple router IDs will be shown, multiple advertising routers information will be shown, and how long the entries in the table it will be shown, the milliseconds values. And there are some other extra parameters which we may not be requiring that, but the programmers may require that OSPF, how does it working in that. So when you start reading the database table, you'll understand that how many columns are there, which column is saying about what, how do you find out that which is the router ID is talking to us, and what is the process ID which has been running on OSPF as a protocol. Process ID is so important in OSPF. So when the process ID has been properly mentioned, by using that proper process ID only, all the advertisements which are happening on the OSPF network. When the process ID has been met with another one, it doesn't require that the process ID need to meet the other routers or something, because it is not a like an AS number or something which we use. AS means autonomous system number, we should just say that. So autonomous system numbers are something a bit different than the OSPF process ID what we are talking here. Process ID is nothing but the local significant informations. When we are running a multiple processes within the OSPF itself, every other process has been differentiated by the process IDs. Maybe like I will be running on OSPF 1, OSPF 3, OSPF 5, 10, 15, 20, like that I just keep on running on that. So every other process ID has got its own significance. It will be creating its own database table as such, and it will be redistributing the networks between the process IDs that is very much in advanced things. When you are sitting in an ISP network, you will be understanding that how the process ID is being given a much prominence to, priorities are given for that one. So process IDs make sense, and the database tables, we just need to learn and understand that. So once you start reading about the database table, if you understand quickly, if you understand easily about that, then the problem of like troubleshooting is quite easier. Setting up is not a bigger problem at all, because customer will come with his own requirements. What all the networks need to get advertised into the network, in the sense they will just say that we pick up that by seeing the mask which has been given on the subnet masks. We can just write that the configuration can be made for a OSPF setting up and other things. Setting up is not so hard, because when you are working in a lower level, your seniors must be giving about that. What all the configurations need to be made. They'll be just giving you the script for that. There's just some other commands, you just need to type it on this. Most of the time, we will be giving in a text format. So they'll just copy paste that into the core router. Which router need to call, log in onto that? What is the password for that router? What are the TACACS passwords and other things has to be given. So all the informations will be on the change text. So once they seeing the change text, and they will, like just copy pasting that, then they have to go and verify that whether this particular new entry of the router has been properly propagated into the OSPF network, and whether you can reach it from the core routers to this branch routers or something. So minimal things are being discussed in the change management tickets and other things. Once you have that information, you just paste it out there, you just configure that, and you just go and verify it with all the show commands and other things. Once everything has been completed, just update it on the ticket that things has been completed on that. So it may take only maximum 5 to 10 minutes on that, even if you're configuring 10 to 15 routers of with a OSPF or something. So configuration is not a bigger issue at all, but when you make some mistakes in the configuration, that makes sense, because mistakes only making us to do the troubleshooting for the network. Troubleshooting the OSPF network is like a hill, definitely. So it is not easy to troubleshoot the OSPF network, very hard. Because of that, when you're sitting in the core router, you just see the database table. When I'm just saying that show IP OSPF database in the core router of the Cisco, because I work with many ISPs, still we are working on that. So when we are giving that, the page may be going for 10 to 15 pages, 10 to 15 pages of 80 lines per screen. Like that, you can just think of that how many database table, how many database entries may be there in the database table. So once you start seeing that, then you just need to do the filtering of that, what information we are looking for, which router is actually not properly advertising that. How do we go and pinpoint to that? How do I get into reach to that router? What is actually happening on that? Either the interface is down, or the mask information has been given wrongly, or the configuration itself is not there at all. The person maybe like rebooted the router, it maybe like it was in a running config, it gone wasted. So when it is rebooting again back, the router may not be having that current configurations which are present on that. It may not be there. So it may be like loaded with the new older configuration, like a startup config something. So these are all the main practical issues we will be seeing on that. Then we'll have to log into the router to see that all the interfaces, just verify the configurations by doing the piping on this, grepping and other things and all we do. So once we see that, then the configuration is missing, then we can just go ahead and see the ticket which has been opened against that to do the changes or something other. Just take that change text file, see that what are the entries need to be made on that router to configure it. So you just configure it on this. Okay, so this is better. Okay, this is a quite simpler ticket. We just solved the problem. But what is the problem faced on the mainly on the ISP level environment in the sense? OSPF, as I told you, this is a open standard protocol. Okay, open standard protocol in the sense every other branded router will be working within OSPF. Say for example, one other customer is having the Cisco. They standardized it with completely on Cisco. The other customer is completely standardized with the Juniper. The one more customer is completely standardized with the Huawei routers. All that still there. They are the Chinese make, but still they are working on that. But Huawei has got a lot of bugs and issues and other things, even in OSPF also. So even the configuration is perfectly intact. Even if you just log into the Huawei router and just seeing that what all the entries need to be there, they are there. And what all entries has to be there on Juniper, it is there. But what all entries are there in a Cisco should be there. But still they are not talking to each other. Means like neighborship is not been formed. database is not being properly populated, and the routing table is not getting updated with that. So what is the information? Maybe you need to run the debug commands in the each and every other router. So you should know about what is the debug commands we just need to run on the Juniper router as well as the Huawei router. Because people are coming with only the Cisco experience. That is the main problem. Once you cross the 5-6 years in your experience, in the sense you are supposed to work on multi-vendor equipments also. That is what been expected. Even if you don't know that, it has been a mandatory skill become like, because you are handling multiple customers. We cannot just go and say the customer that you just need to use only this router. It is depend on their own, like budget and other criterias. So they will be buying some different routers because OSPF is open standard, so they can integrate it. So, but when they're integrating it, OSPF may not be working properly with that third party routers or something. So there is a real headache starts. Database is not getting updated. Routing tables are not showing the O router, OIA router, something like that. Then we have some different multiple areas as well. Different sort of areas which we can create it on OSPF. Stub area, not so stub area, totally stub area, not so totally stub area. So many other areas are there. So it depends on the requirements of the customers' locations. We will be configuring those kind of an areas on that. So those areas may not be getting the proper routes which are supposed to get it. So how do we troubleshoot that? How do we troubleshoot the area level problems? How do you troubleshoot that database level issues? How do you troubleshoot the routing table issues? What are the things we just need to look for that when it become the neighbor or something like that? How do you verify the neighbors? What is the update timing is being given from the neighbors to neighbor? It is not like a distance vector protocol or something. It will be keep on giving the entire output or something to the neighbors or something, because OSP is so running so huge volume. It cannot give the output in every 1 minute or 2 minutes. It doesn't give that at all, because the algorithm doesn't do that way to populate the networks between the routers which are running on the OSPF. The OSPF must be giving an update every 30 minutes if there is no changes at all. 30 minutes, you just need to wait for thing to get updated or something like that. So this is the problem which we are facing, because it is being seen in the broader idea like that. It's going to be a world level network. Like there will be thousands and thousands of routers which are getting integrated with the OSPF. So it is being expected that to work in that level. So our thinking has to go beyond the limits when we are trying to troubleshoot it, or when try to configure it, or how big is the network. You just need to have a proper understanding of this. Once you have that understanding, then you will be having definitely you will have in your mind that seriousness will come into you. Like you don't go and play it out. Means the people are playing, like, because even though the engineers are quite good in the like some of the protocols or something, they'll just have a proper drawbacks in understanding the OSPF concepts as well. Because when you go mad by just seeing that the database table itself, like you just need to take it and copy paste it to the notepad. We just do a lot of control F to find out that where is the network subnet is not been coming up like that. So we just need to run the debug. Debugs are not allowed in the production router. That is the main problematic, because customer has opened a case and he would like to troubleshoot that some of the entries are not coming up. He written some kind of prefix lists or like access lists or something. It's not getting properly populated inside to the OSPF network. OSPF is not recognizing that new networks are advertised through the distribute list or something. So what do we need to do? We may have to remove that and put it back again. OSPF is very much easily can get corrupted if things are going wrong. Because it's corrupted in the sense, but how does it getting integrated to the OS of the router? Huawei OS, Juniper OS, Cisco OS, Viata OS, so many OS are there. So that integration is not happening in the sense we just need to have a like broader understanding about that, how things can work out. We are not allowed to run the debug on this. When we are not running the debug, then we will not have a problem identified. So how do we do that? We can even do the capturing. Packet capturing is possible. We can do the spanning of the port, then capture the port and capture all the packets for at least 5-10 minutes without interrupting the traffic which is going on, because all the other networks are perfectly working. Okay. Only the thing which has been introduced newly, maybe today or tomorrow, yesterday, or day before yesterday, which has been integrated to the new network or something, that is not coming up. Customers are complaining that some other site locations are not properly getting the route, so the applications are not running right. So we have the pressure mounting everywhere. So once you capture that packet and you just put it on a Wireshark scene, that who is actually not advertising, Where is the source address? Where is the destination address? Where it is getting stuck? Where the advertisements are not going? Where is like the packets which are there? That is link state advertisements. We just need to see the link state advertisements. We have to have a proper understanding of the LSAs. That is called as a link state advertisings in the advertisements in the OSPF. So which router will be giving a proper LSA? Which LSA has been produced by which router? LSA 1, LSA 2, LSA 3, like that. 9 LSAs are there. So we just need to understand that all the LSAs, 11 and 12 are also there. There is used in a very heavy opaque and other thing, LSAs are there. So minimum at least 7 LSAs you should be understanding that. How does it working? Which router is going to produce that particular LSA? When it is producing that LSA, whether it has been properly populated with neighbor routers, whether they are going to screen it out or they are going to allow it. So understanding is very important. OSPF is very hard. Definitely, it is so dry. Dry in the sense like it doesn't come to your mind so easily. Like when you are configuring some interface IP, or you are just configuring some kind of shut to shut in the interfaces and all. That's not so much easy like that. So we have to have a proper theoretical knowledge. Like we just need to by heart that all the LSA numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and other things. Which router is going to send? ASBR will be sending some LSAs. DR will be sending some LSAs. Stub router will be giving some LSAs. They will be receiving certain LSAs. They will be blocking some LSAs. ABR will be releasing or getting some LSAs and all. So we should have the proper theoretical knowledge about the LSAs. What I do normally, we'll just keep it in the cubicle that, like what LSA has been given by who. It is not easy to buy out everything, right? So it's just like make a table of it. LSA 1 send by this, receive by this. LSA 2 send by this or receive by this. Like roles and responsibilities are given in the OSP for every other router. When multiple areas begin getting configured in one router in the sense, that will become a area border router. It's a simple area border, ABR. When OSPF is talking to the different protocols, like say EAGRP, BGP, RIP, IGRP, some people are still using that. So when it is getting translated, means like when it is getting redistributed to the network in the sense, you can call that as a autonomous system boundary router. When a router which is having only the interfaces which are in the same area means we can call it as an internal router. Okay, and the area concepts we just need to understand. What is a backbone area? What is a stub area? What is a totally stubby area? What is a totally non-so stubby area? Like that. So there are some Cisco's implementations also there. Cisco has got its own implementations of certain areas, concepts are there. We need to understand that concepts also. So when Cisco is creating, then it will be, like formatting certain advertisements can come in, certain prefixes can be advertised to this but kind of, the areas or something, and this area can go out with only with the static route or something like that. So we have to have this proper understanding by reading the OSPF, not just go directly configuring. Configuration is simple. The commands are already given. You just go to the Cisco Connection Online CCO. You will find all the commands are there. They have given all the scenarios also, like which scenario, what area, how to configure stub area, how to configure not so stubby area, how to configure totally stubby area, how to configure the backbone area, how to go for a virtual link between the MPLS connections. And MPLS is also been there inside the OSPF. So you need to work out with how to implement that OSPF in an MPLS connections on this. So many things are there because it is completely technical. So you should have a proper understanding of the concept of the OSPF. How does it work? That is more important. When you thinking about the OSPF, okay, I just configured some areas and routers are talking to each other. Okay, that's not the one. That's not the end, because OSPF is not meant to talk to only 10 to 15 routers. We require to work with 100 routers, 200 routers, thousands of routers are running on OSPF inside the ISP network. So that's what I said. So before going to learn any kind of configurations or something, better you go through the documentations properly. When you have the documentations properly in your hand, you can go for a referring. That's not an issue. But basic understanding is required. When you just that how do I configure that? Because my seniors are giving me the script, I'll just execute it. Okay, that anyone can do. If the person who knows English can copy and paste it, it's okay. But you are not. You are an engineer actually. You just need to know that what you are running the commands on the router, which router you logged into that, how does it going to impact the new changes into that router, and what all the adjacent routers are going to behave because of the new change has been done on the core routers. So we have to have all these ideas. These ideas can come in hand whenever you are having a proper understanding about the protocol. Because OSPF and BGP are the very much required protocols to get understood once you grow in an IT network department or something, because you are about to work with the heavy loaded routers, heavy like number of volume of routers which are created, which are configured on the ISP network. Without ISP configurations and all, no company can work with it, because we are all working with the cloud nowadays. In the cloud, how do we get a cloud connections? We have to have a link which has been given by the ISP to connect to that, the cloud or something. So in cloud also we are configuring OSPF, we are configuring BGP, right? So we need to have the peer connections. We need to have the neighborships has to be made on that. So many things which I just need to discuss it on today. So I will be giving you a brief introductions about that. Whichever I talk now, it's an introduction only. We will just go through the slides one by one, and you will be understanding all these things. I'll be sending you these slides and the video as usual at the end of the sessions or something to all your whoever is requested. Okay, I'll just give you that link on this. And after finishing this, this lecture, I'll put it on a YouTube. You can watch it on the YouTube as well. Okay, let's go for these slides. I'll just play out the slides now. Okay, something is going on here. Let me make it F5 and OSPF, Open Shortest Path first. Next. OSPF is a standards based on link state IP routing protocol described in RFC. Okay, RFC, if you want to see that a request for comments, RFC can be go and see that, but RFC is heavily technical, like it will be written in the packet formats and other things. Very much of a core information, debug informations are given on the RFCs. You can read them because it's an open standard protocol. That's why it was developed to meet the RIP's inability to scale beyond 15 routers. 15 routers in the sense RIP can support only 15, but OSPF is having unlimited routers we can run on. And proposed by IETF, Internet Engineers Task Force something, Integras, 1988 and formalized in 1991. There are two versions on this OSPF. V2, that is for version 4. V3 is for IP version 6. We can do it in IP version 6 also, OSPF. Next, OSPF features including fast convergence, supporting the VLSM, means a variable length subnet masking. Means we can use any kind of a mask as per our requirement in the same given network. So OSPF will properly understand that. You don't need to do any kind of an extra commands or something like we do in EIGRP, that no order summary, something like that. We just need to give it. That's not required in the OSPF. And efficient use of the bandwidth. Routing changes trigger routing updates. No periodic updates here. There is no periodic update as such. Routing triggering, only giving the routing updates. Supports a large network size, definitely. And routing based on the best path selection. Grouping of members into the areas, because we could not manage 10,000 routers with just a flat network like that. It's not possible. We need to configure it in multiple areas wise. So inside the areas, the advertisements are made. Outside the areas, the advertisements can be, filtered and sent out like that. So let's go to the next slide. Link state protocol characteristics. OSPF and ISA falls in the link state protocol category family. With the link state routing protocols, each router has a full picture of the network topology and can independently make a decision based on an accurate picture of the network topology. To do so, each link state router keeps a record of immediate neighbor routers, all the other routers in the network or in its area of the network and their attached networks, best path to each destination. So these are all the characteristics of the link state protocol. And the link state protocol advantages, comparatively speaking about the path vector or distance vector or hybrid things, respond quickly to the network changes. It's very respond quickly to the network changes. Send the triggered update when network change occurs only. Sending the periodic update, link state refresh at long intervals, such as every 30 minutes. That's what I was saying. Using LSAs to confirm the topology information before the information ages out of the link state database. LSA means link state advertisements. You see that 30 minutes only it will be sending the update if there is no change at all. So that's why it can save a lot of bandwidth for the data to take more. OSPF terminology, OSPF databases and tables. OSPF adjacency database, that is called as neighbor table, first neighbor table. Then the link state database, that is a topology table, that is number 2. And the forwarding database, that is nothing but the routing table. So neighborship table, topology table, then routing table. This is the order of sequence. Then link state advertisements we will be discussing. Link state database we will be thinking about that. And the shortest path, that is a routing algorithm which is being used in the OSPF. Dijkstra algorithm we call, because the person who invented this OSPF, who written the algorithm, is called as a Dijkstra, the person name. And it is also called as an SPF tree, means the shortest path first tree. And the OSPF areas we will discuss. Backbone, that is a transit and standard areas. Types of OSPF routers, internal router, that is called as an IR. And the backbone router, that is a BR. Area border router, that is ABR. Autonomous system boundary router, that is ASBR. Designated router and backup designated router. So these are all the terminologies before starting with configuring the IP addressing informations or configuring the OSPF. We should understand this. Next. OSPF tables and the databases. OSPF maintains 3 databases which are used to create these 3 tables. One is an adjacency table. That is called as, we normally say it as a neighbor table. List of all neighbors to which a router has established bidirectional communication. The table is each unique for each router because they will be having the nearest neighbor, they will be showing it. Can be used, viewed, can be by using the show IP OSPF neighbor command. This is a Cisco command I'm talking. Okay. And then the link state database, that is a topological database. List of information about all routers in the network. Database shows the network topology. All routers within an area have identical link state database. Can be viewed using the show IP OSPF database command. Then last one is a forwarding database. Everything is database only. So routing table. List of routes generated when an algorithm is run on the link state database. Each router routing table is unique and contains information on how and where to send the packet to the other routers. Can be viewed using the show IP route command. Like these are all the 3 tables we've seen. Next, link state advertisements. Link state advertisements are called as an LSA. What a link state advertisement can do, you see that this is the LSA which is going on here. Here an LSA going, LSA coming, LSA going, LSA coming. LSA is not sent, like that, something. Then the link state database has been created. SPF algorithm has been used. Shortest path, then it will go to the routing table. So this is the number 1, number 2, number 3. This is the order of sequence. When a change occurs in the network topology, the router experiencing the change creates a link state advertisements concerning that link. The LSA is multicasted to the all neighboring devices, either 224.005 or 224.006. Routers receiving the LSA immediately forwarded to the all neighboring routers. This is about link state advertisements. Link state database. You just see this database. You can just see that. This area we can just see that now. Here you can see that. Routers receiving add the LSA to their link state database. LSDB is used to calculate the best paths through the network. OSPF best route calculation is based on the Edsger Dijkstra as a person's name, shortest path first algorithm that's been used. So this is about link state database. Now we see SPF routing algorithm. Here you can just see the routing algorithm. The SPF algorithm accumulates costs along each path from source to the destination. The accumulated cost is then used by the router to build the topology table. So this is about SPF, like how SPF is calculating the path information by using the cost calculations. Then we'll see something about the OSPF areas. To minimize the processing and the memory requirements, OSPF can divide the routing topology into 2-layer hierarchy called areas. What is 2-layer? We'll see next. Characteristics of the OSPF areas include minimizes routing table entries, localizes the impact of the topology change within an area, Detailed LSA flooding stops at the area boundary, requires a hierarchical network design. This is two layer, backbone area and other areas. Here is a backbone area 0 is the, and area 1, area 2, area 3. That is for nothing but a second layer. Just second layer means like, yeah. So backbone area is referred as area 0, always referred as area 0, also known as the transit area. Regular standard areas, it's like also shown as non-backbone areas because it's area 1, 2, 3, something is been written. All areas must connect to the backbone area. This is a must information. I should start it out like that. Standard areas can be further defined as stub areas, totally stubby areas, not so totally stubby areas like that. So optimal number of routers per area varies based on factors such as network stability, but Cisco recommending an area should have no more than 50 routers. This is what more than 50 routers, don't include it in an area, and router should not be more than in 3 areas. These are all the design considerations. When you cross this boundary, 50 areas more than that, if you're putting there, you will be having a hard time in understanding that because the area will be growing so heavily, databases will be giving heavily, then you will not be able to filter the packet within the area or something. So that will be a problem. So you can go with that 50 routers per area, three areas, one router can participate. So OSPF router types, what are the routers are there in OSPF? How OSPF routers exchange the information is based on function of the router, type of LSA it can forward, type of area it resides in. OSPF routers may function as either internal router, that is called as a IR, backbone router, that is a BR, ABR, ASBR. We see that. Note, a router can exist as more than one router type. It is possible because of the multiple routers connecting to that. ASBR can be a ABR also. It is possible. So that is what is being said like that. And OSPF router types, this is a picture of this. We can just see that. This is a backbone area. Just see, it will be explaining so heavily. Beautifully. Backbone area, and it is an internal router. So this you can call it as an area backbone router. ABR and a backbone router, ABR and a backbone router. This router is talking to area 2 also, area 0 also. This router is talking to area 1 also, area 0 also. So that's why they are called as an ABR like that. So, but this router, you just see that this is something different. Let me clear this so you'll understand. This is something different because it's an external AS. Maybe like this is here, the customer may be configured with the EAGRP or BGP, something like that. So we may have to pick up the routes from this different protocol and we need to infuse it to this OSPF protocol. So this router is called as ASBR. Okay, sorry. ASBR, Autonomous System Boundary Router, which is the router which talks to the different protocol than the OSPF. It's picking up the routes informations, convert them back to the OSPF format and sending it, as well as it will pick up the OSPF routes, whatever the advertisements are coming into that ASBR router. It will convert them back to the original format of that, either EAGRP or RAPE or BGP, something like that. So this is about the OSPF router types. What are the router types we see? ABR, IR, ASBR. Mostly like 3 things which we normally talk about. Internal router, what is an internal router? There's an explanation on this. Routers have all interfaces within the same area, that is called as an internal router. Have identical databases, run a single copy of routing algorithm. Backbone router, OSPF design rule require that all areas must be connected to single backbone area, that is area 0. Area 0 is also called as all 000, that is an IP address format, it is written on that. And area 0 router is referred as the backbone router. Depending on where it resides in area 0, it may be also called as an internal router, an ABR or an ASBR. That's what. One router can have multiple roles as well. So we seen now internal router, we seen that, backbone router we seen that. We will see some more routers also in the next coming. Area border router. Area border router, it's joining the areas together, maintaining the separate link state databases for each area, and routing traffic destined to and arriving from other areas, summarizing the information that each area connected to and flooding the information through area 0 and to other areas connected. An area can have one or more ABR, that is possible, ABR cannot send LSUs to other areas until entire intra area is synchronized. This is a requirement and mandatory. Some information are there. We can just note that. So area border router is nothing but blindly, just frankly speaking about that. It's been configured and the interfaces are configured in multiple areas. That is called as an area border router. Next, ASBR, that is autonomous system boundary router. Routers that have at least one interface connected to another AS, such as non-OSPF network. Non-OSPF network is nothing but EAGRP running, BGP running in other routers, or RIP is running, something like that which we do. That is called as a non-OSPF. And router supports a distribution. Redistribution has been supported. They can import non-OSPF network information to the OSPF network, should reside in the backbone area. That is a mandatory. It has to be in the backbone area to do the autonomous system boundary operations as such. Okay, these are all the criteria which need to be met for ASB. Next, OSPF router types. That's what we seen that. Actually, it is been given in the picturized format. Routers A, B, C, D, and E are backbone routers. You see that A, B, C, D, E, because they are participating in another series. This is that A, B, C, D, E are backbone routers. C, D, E are the area border routers. You see that because C is in area 0, area 1 also, area 0 also. Same way. D is in 0, D is in 1, like that it goes. And the A, B, F, G, H are internal routers. A, B, F, G, H, they are internal router because their interfaces are configured in the same area only. You can call it as like A and B are configured in area 0. They are also internal routers. Area and F is configured in area 1, G is configured in area 2, H is configured in area 3. They are also internal router because they are not having any presence on the interfaces configured in different areas also. So they are called as an internal routers. Next, BDR and DR, DR and BDR, that is a designated router and backup designated router. This is like a master and slave, you can just take it as, to reduce the amount of OSPF traffic on multi-access broadcast networks, such as Ethernet, OSPF LX, a designated router, and a backup designated router. DR is responsible for updating all other OSPF routers, it is called as the DR others, when a change occurs in the multi-access network. The BDR monitors the DR and it takes over when the DR is failing. A router connected to the multiple broadcast network can be DR on one segment and a regular router on another segment. So DR and BDR is nothing but like it be having the complete entire database information, synchronizing informations, and they will be controlling the entire network. And DR, BDR can be available in any areas it's possible. Okay, next, how the metric calculation has been done in OSPF. You see the diagram, like it is a lower cost here and there is a higher cost here. This is the bandwidth. Bandwidth high means it is a low cost. Bandwidth low means it is a higher cost. Always lower cost is preferred. OSPF metric calculation is based on cost. Cost is an indication of the overhead required to send the packet across a certain interface. Cost of an interface is inversely proportional to the bandwidth of that interface. Higher the bandwidth is attributed with the low cost, lower the bandwidth is attributed with the higher cost. So always lower cost is preferred. What are the packet types which we see in OSPF? 5 packet types make OSPF capable of sophisticated and complex communications. There are 5 packet types of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one is a hello. Hello is used for discovering the neighbors and build the adjacencies between them. Number 2, DVD means the database descriptions. Checks for database synchronization between the routers. Next, LSR, link state request. Request the specific link state records from another router. Link state update. Send specifically requested link state records. LSAC, it is nothing but an acknowledgement. Acknowledges to the other packet types. So we have 5 packets which are there. Hello, DVD, LSR, LSU, LSAC. ACK means acknowledgement packets. So these are all the packets you will be seeing it in OSPF network, because all the advertisements which are happening between the OSPF running routers based on this, using these packet types. Next, hello packet. What the hello packet will be doing? Hello packet is the bigger problem, because this is causing a major, major problems when neighborship is being formed on this. Hello packet fields must match on neighboring routers for them to establish an adjacency. Hello interval, these are all the timers we just need to match. Hello interval, dead interval, network type, area ID, authentication password, stub area flag. It should be same on the adjacent router also. So they will form the neighbor. They will form the neighbor. Else they will not form the neighbor. Two routers on the same network segment may not form OSPF adjacency if they are not in the same area. Subnet masks do not match, and hello or dead timers do not match. OSPF network types do not match. OSPF network command is missing or incorrect. So this is how we will be troubleshooting why the adjacency is not being made. By using these informations, we will identify that. So when we try troubleshooting something which is not happening in type 2 OSPF DBD packet. Database description packets contain an abbreviated list of sending the router's link state and database, and is used by receiving routers to check against the local link database. Then link state database must be identical on all link state routers within an area to construct an accurate SPF tree. SPF means shortest path first tree. Type 3 is an LSR packet. Is used for to receiving routers to request more information about the entry on the DVD. DVD means database descriptions. Number 4, OSPF LSU. LSU means link state update packets are used for routing updates. They reply to the LSRs as well as to announce new information. LSUs contain 7 different types of link state advertisements. LSUs contain the full list of LSA entries. Multiple LSA entries can fit into one OSPF update packet. This is an update packet. Then LS acknowledgement. Link state acknowledgement packet. When an LSE has been received, router sends an LSAC to confirm the receipt of LSE. LSAC data field is empty. Nothing will be there in there. It's just giving the acknowledgement only. Then what are the states are there? When things are getting configured, means when we are configuring 2 routers, when you would like to see that what are the states are happening on the OSPF states, neighbor discovery, that is the first, it is happening with the hello protocol. Okay, first it will be in a down state, means nothing will be up. No hello packets are received as a down, because it is a down. Sending the hello packets transit to the init state. Then next one is the init state. Hello packets are received from the neighbor, and it contains a initial router's router ID. Transit is a 2-way state. Here it is a 2-way state. 2-way state, then go to the 2-way state. 2-way state, that is an optional which has been made as like their selection will be happened. DR, BDR selections are happening. Then it goes to the next state, that is called as an extart state. This is here the database synchronizations are happening. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like this. In the phase 2, the database synchronization will start. Means extart state. Negotiating the master and slave relationship with the DVD. DVD means database description. More LSAs are required. If it is not, then exchange state. It goes to the exchange state. The DVD exchanged as LSAs are requested and sent. Transferred to either loading or full state after completing the database descriptions. Then the loading state is nothing but like the establishment has been done. Nearly learned routes are asked for, and the current database is being processed. Route calculation, then full state. That is the third phase of the state which has been happening on that. Router is in a synchronized with the neighbor, and route calculations using the SPF algorithm begins. This is what? First, second, third. First, it will be like a neighbor discovery. Second, it will be the database synchronization. Third, it will be the routing calculation. This is how the neighborship has been made, and further entries are made of this. Implementing the OSPF. When we are going for an implementation of the OSPF, what are the steps we just need to do, and what are the criteria need to be met? What are the configurations, how we are going to do that? These are all the necessary information to implement OSPF routing includes IP addresses to be configured in the individual router interface. That is a must. Second, a list of routers on which OSPF is to be enabled, along with the OSPF process number to use and connected networks that are run OSPF and that need to be advertised per individual router. The area in which the interface is to be configured. Area information is a must. Metrics that need to be applied to the specific interface or OSPF traffic engineering. In an implementation plan, OSPF tasks include enabling OSPF routing protocol directly on an interface or by using the correct network command line under the OSPF routing process. Assigning the correct area ID into the interface via the OSPF configuration on interface or OSPF routing process. Optionally configuring metric and appropriate interfaces. So these are all the implementation in like the steps. We just need to do that. First you configure IP, then you put the process ID something, then area you configure that, then configure the metrics like this. It's been a steps of information like that. Then verifying the OSPF. How do you verify that? When you configure it, okay, what are the verification things that has to be done? Verification tasks can include verifying that appropriate OSPF neighbor relationship and adjacencies are established. That is number one. Then second, verifying the OSPF LSDB is populated with the necessary information. Third, verifying the routing table populated with the necessary information. Fourth, verifying that there is a connectivity in the network between routers and other devices, means ping and check it out. 5, verifying OSPF behaves as expected in case of topology change, testing a link failure and failure events. Means just you try to down an interface to find out that whether informations are properly passed between the OSPF running routers or something. Like this is the verifying OSPF. We will see the commands also. Verifying the OSPF. Show IP protocols. This displays the process ID, router ID, network router advertising and administrative distance. Show IP OSPF neighbors. This shows the neighbor relationship. IP route. This showing the routing table. IP OSPF interface. This shows the hello interval and the dead interval. If they are not matching each other, then they will not become the neighbor. So this is one of the criteria to become a neighbor. Then show IP OSPF. It displays the OSPF process ID, router ID, OSPF area informations, last time SPF algorithm calculated. So we require all these 5 commands to remember to see what outputs are coming up. Need to take these commands and start analyzing all these things. So you will have a better understanding on the OSPF protocol. Next, documenting them. So once you implemented it, you verified it, then you'll have to go for a documentation. Documentation means updating the tickets with the latest informations. After successful OSPF deployment, solution and verification process and results should be documented for future reference. Documentation should include a topological map. If you can make a map in a Visio, it's better. But you just make it out with your kind of, whatever it is convenient for you. But Visio is the one which we normally use it for creating the network topology tables and other things. An IP addressing plan, what IP is being used for which routers, and we require a proper documentation for that so that we will not be repeating that IP, so that there will be a duplicacy in the network which will cause further problems. Then area hierarchy. What areas are configured for which customer and which area they are connecting to that. What are the areas they need to go for advertising their information. That is the area hierarchy. Next, networks and interfaces included in the OSPF on each router. The configuration parameters. You just need to have that. Which router is having what network interfaces are configured, what IPs and other things. And the default and any other special metrics used. If you have used any kind of a special metrics to reroute the traffic towards a different path or something like that, we will be introducing a metric components like that. Or for some maintenance or something like that, we will just use some kind of metric commands to redivert the traffic, not to use the maintenance link or something you can do. Then verification results, show command outputs, debug command outputs and all. We just need to do all the documentation. These are all documentation process like that. Next, what all the network types are there? This is most difficult one. So we have to discuss this, and I'm not going to discuss this in very much in detail. I'll just give you basic information about what are the network types are there in OSPF. Broadcast network, that is a very basic and everyone knows about this. Point-to-point network. Point-to-point in the sense it is a point-to-point network. Then it is coming as a non-broadcast multi-access network. So these are all the information we see that. So my broadcast network is nothing but like a multi-access broadcast network. DR, BDR is required. All Ethernet networks are called as broadcast networks. Point-to-point. A network that joins in a single pair of routers. No DR, BDR is required. And it has been configured with the protocols like PPP and HDLC because we are using the serial links on this one. The non-broadcast multi-access networks. In this one, we are having what is that? Non-broadcast multi-access means a frame relay, ATM and X.25. Frame relay is out of the mark now. Means ATM also we are not using it. X.25 somewhere it has been used, I don't know, because we are all using everything using the MPLS only nowadays. So anyway, we can use that NBMA also here. Network that interconnects more than 2 routers that built has no broadcast capability. DR, BDR may not be required. There are 5 modes of OSPF operation is available in NBMA. Non-broadcast, point to multi-point, broadcast, and some other things. The choice of mode depends on topology of the NBMA network. We'll just have it like this. And okay, clear all the drawings and let's go to the, somebody is pinged, I guess. Ankur Verma, hello, I have a doubt based on which parameters any router become a DR and BDR. So to become a DR and BDR, we will be configuring that which router should become a DR. Like that we have a IP OSPF priority command is there. So with that, we can make that particular router to become a DR and other routers to not to become DR, BDR at all. They will be just sitting as like a normal router like that. So that is another criteria is there. So with that, by using the priority command, we can make that particular router to become a DR, forcing them to become a DR. Else they will be taking the highest IP addresses and other things, something like it goes on, comparing with the other routers as well. So there are 3 types of network which we've seen. That is a broadcast network, point-to-point network, and NBMA. And the last, I should say about link state advertisements, very harder to remember this information. So please keep this in your cubicle, you know, like keep it printed and pasted on your cubicle so that you can go for, you know, just seeing a glance and just give a glance that you can understand that what LSA has been for what, been created by whom, like that. So LSAs are building blocks of the OSPF. LSDB means the database. Individually, LSAs act as database records. When combined, they describe the entire topology of an OSPF area. There are several types of OSPF network LSAs. Not all are in, see that. Number 1 LSA, that is a router LSA. Every router will be producing. Number 2 LSA, that is being produced by the DRs. And number 3 and 4 LSAs, they are being given by ABR. Number 5 is an external LSA, that is also an ABR and ASBR, something like that. Then 6 and 7 and defined as an NSSA, that is depend on the not so stubby area which will be given on this. And opaque LSAs, we don't use that. And 8, it's a border gateway protocol LSA which is coming. So we have to have a better understanding of this LSAs. Which router, which role playing router in OSPF will be creating that LSAs, which you need to understand that. By this, we can configure and we can able to see that. But remembering them will be harder because you just need to keep on working on OSPF for quite a long time. And then you can have that better understanding in your mind that what LSAs are created by which router, which role of router, which DR is creating, what normal routers are creating, which LSAs, ABRs are creating what kind of an LSA, ASBR is creating, and which are all the LSAs are reaching the special areas called as stub router, stub area, not so stubby area, totally stubby area. Like that, all of the areas are there. So these areas, what all the like LSAs can come in and they can go out. And so these are all the information we just need to understand that. So that's all about LSA, about OSPF. So as usual, I have given my numbers to all the people over here. You can take these numbers and you can talk to me anytime, whichever you're looking for. because this OSPF is very much widely covered in the CCNP level and specialist level exams in Cisco. NCORE, something is there. In the NCORE exam analysis CNP level, we just need to study a lot of OSPF over there because it's been expected that the seniors will be working on mostly on OSPF only. So I am covering up this training on NCORE and other things. OSPF, not only OSPF, we will talk about a BGP, communities, EHRP in a very much established manner. We just do that lot of things on this, courses and other things. I used to conduct some Cisco courses, as well as the cloud and firewall based and load balancers and everything I've been conducting. You can talk to me on this number, and you can ping me on WhatsApp on this number which has been shown on the screen. And again, I would like to request with you that you can subscribe to my channel. It's a free channel. Whatever the videos I'm doing it on every week, I'll be uploading it to that YouTube channel. You can watch it free, and you can introduce my channel to your friends, colleagues, and relatives. They will also, they can go for some preparations of the certifications as well. I'll be helping them to get them certified. I'll be taking the sessions for them, and with the nominal prices, competitive prices in the market. Okay. And so currently I'll be taking the sessions on over the, virtual sessions only possible. We'll have a Zoom link like this, one more to have the classes. And about the OSPF, not only OSPF, we will talk about EHRP, BGP, and router redistribution techniques, and access lists, prefix lists, and distribution lists, route redistributions, loopings, troubleshooting things. We will see a lot of things on this. So if you have any questions on your mind regarding any trainings which you're looking for, you can ask me now, or you can put your queries into the chat area. I will be answering that. And if you have any questions on that, you can unmute your mic and you can talk to me directly. Now I am ready to answer your questions. Okay, please go ahead. You can ask any questions. If you don't have any questions, I will just go for, okay. Why area cannot be stubby area? That is a very good and very good question. Stubby area means like it has got its own characteristics. Okay, stubby area can receive certain updates, can get some updates like that. So area 0 cannot be a stubby because area 0 is going to be the backbone area, and it is going to be the transit area. To translate to transit. Transit means it's like a passage. For all the other area packets can go through the area 0 only. And area 0 is the backbone area, it is called as. Without area 0, you will not be able to create any OSPF network. So it cannot be a stubby area. I guess I answered your question for Prashant. Thank you. Okay, so it's a nice question. Okay, nice. I understand. I appreciate you. Okay, please explain the stub area. Oh, Peter, stubby area. I just need to make one more, I have to create one more training on this. Means like one more session. I just need to go with all the special areas. I just need to explain about the stub area, not so stubby area, totally stubby area, not so stubby, totally stubby area, and area default information originate, and introducing the static route to that things. So many things which we need to discuss. That is again 1 hour. I just need to talk. I will make one more, OSPF sessions. That time I will be discussing about all these special areas. This is like an introduction to OSPF, like I just given now. Thanks, Peter, for asking that question. Thank you. Any more questions from anyone? I'm ready to answer that. No issues. You can talk to me. Okay, Peter has asked something. Then what about others? Other than OSPF also you can talk, no problem. If you're looking for any other questions in your mind about networks, security, or in the cloud, or any kind of firewalls, if you like to talk. Okay, I'm ready to talk. Yes. Okay. So let us have some kind of an OSPF practical. We'll be showing you at least 1 or 2 routers to connect to each other with OSPF by configuring them. Let me go for that configurations. And you can see my informations on this. And let me start the GNS3. Hope it should be working GNS3 because we are doing a lot of practicals on the OSPF and I'm showing it to my students as well. GNS3 is one of the platform where we can do multiple commands in a much advanced mode. Like we will be using the real routers only directly, not like a packet tracer. Cisco packet tracer can be used for a CCNA level, the configurations as well. We can see all, means OSPF, BGP, everything, but we don't enjoy much because we are working we need to run the debugs. We have to analyze a lot of questions and other things. So it's getting started, please wait. So better if you use that GNS3 or you can use that EVNG, that is the next generation something is that. That simulator also we can use it. EVNG as well as GNS3 will do the same work. And we can have the real router voice can be integrated to this simulators, GNS3 as well as the EVNG. We can do multiple routers and multiple configurations. And as well as we can go for a very heavier configurations as well with the the GNS3 as well as the EVNG. So it will be helping a lot of engineers to clear the examinations of CCNA, CCNP, as well as the CCIE level, that is a internet networking expert level. So that level, if you like to go for that, you just need to run multiple debug commands, heavy number of routers, 8 to 10 routers, you just need to configure that, and you have to work on multiple protocols as well. Okay, I guess let me create that one. It's been OSPF demo. Okay, I'm creating a new project. Let me go to this, what is that, 7215. I take one router and take the another router, and take the another router. 3 routers I take that, okay. So in these 3 routers, I'm going to configure the OSPF. I'll show you that. Simple, very simple one. 10 is talking to 10. 11 is talking to 11. Okay. So you can just see the interface labels here where they are connected like this. R1, R2, R3. Let me start them all. They will take their own to get started. Time to get started. Okay. You can just see that what all interface connected where. Like if you just do this, it will be showing that. It's not showing up. Yeah, here it will show. If you make it like this, it will show. Which interface connected to what? It will show. You can see this here. And this is the GNS3 VM as well as the router. How much it is taking? See the 100% CPU is taking now. It will go down after the routers are getting stabilized. No need to worry. It doesn't take much memory also. No worries. And this is a management console. We can see what is actually happening on with the GNS3 platform. It is a simulator platform. So with this, we will be able to see that if there is any error comes up, it will be giving in a red color. By seeing that, we'll go and troubleshoot it out. And for the people who are, if they are working towards getting certified on CCNP specialist level or CCNP level or CCIE level, they have to utilize GNS3 as well as or the EVNG. There are 2 simulators of that. In these 2 simulators only, we will be able to do multiple router configurations of that. So let me start the routers. Let me take the console of R1. It's coming up. It's coming up. Yeah, R1 has come up. Let me take the console. It is starting. Let me take the R2 also. It's here. It's a tabbed interface we'll have. Okay, R1 I can close it. R3 also come up. R1, R2, R3. It's a tabbed one. It is coming up with the SolarWinds like the PuTTY, which is integrated with the GNS3. Let me configure that. Interface 00. That is what been connected. I guess so. Sorry, 10 is connected. Say FA1/0. I'll configure IP address 192.168.1.1. Shut down. Okay. And I'll be configuring some other interface. It's called as a loopback 0. I'll configure it. Loopback 0. IP address 1.1.1.1. 255.255.255. Then I'll have to configure the OSPF here. Simple. Router OSPF. If you give the question mark, okay. I need to come out of this to see this. Router OSPF. Coming, the process ID can be used for 1 to 65.535. I will use the process ID as well. Then I'll have to say the network command. Network command, it's coming up. What is the network is going to be? 192.168.1.0. Here we just need to say I just need to say that, the wildcard mask, I just need to say. Network 192.168.1.0. Area has to be specified. I'm giving it an area of. Then I'll have to specify this network. 1.0 and 0.0.0.255 area 0 like that. And right. Yes, I'm writing that. So I just configured the IP address to this interface and I have created that OSPF configurations. Let me go to the router 2. Terminal interface loopback 0, IP address 2.2.255.255.255.0. Interface FA1/0. I guess it's 1/0 no? Okay, 1/0. Enter and IP address is 192.168.1. Now shut down. Then I'll come out. Then I'll say router OSPF. I will use that. Network. I just need to advertise the network here, so I'll just do it with 0.0.0.255. They are in area 0. Then I'll do that network 192.168.0.0. Then I just say 0.0.0.55 area 0. I done that. Then end. Then as usual, I will say right. So this is done. And I have to configure the FA11 also. Then only the R3 will talk to R3. So I have to configure FA1/1. IP address 192.168.3.1. Now shut down. Router OSPF. I have to use the same process ID. Network 192.168.3.0.0.255 area. Let me give it in different area. Area 1 I leave it. Okay, I will go for this guy. Yeah, it's already been there. So let me go to that area. Sorry, R3. Come on. Interface yellow 0, IP address 333.255.255.250. Interface FA1/1, IP address 192.168.3.2. No shutdown. Router OSPF SPF3. Network 333.0.0.0.255 area 1 I will use. Then the network, I'm using the different area here, okay? And 192.168.3.0.0.0.255 area 1 and right. So now you just see that there is a message has come up here, loading done, something like that. Show IP OSPF neighbor. But it's not happened. It's not happening. 1.0. Show IP OSPF neighbor. It's showing only one neighbor. Why it is not happening? Because of that I given the wrong IP here. 2.1. It should be 1.2. Let me change the IP here. FA1/0. IP address 192.168.1.2. I have to use the same, I have to use the same, the one OSPF 2. Then the network, I'll say 192.168.1.0, 0.0.0.255 area 0. And right. Now it will become the neighbor. Come on. Show IP OSPF neighbor. Now you see the two neighbors are there. Number 1 and number 2. Here you just see this guy has got number 2 as the OSPF neighbor. Here you just see 1 and 3 is become a neighbor. So because that's what directly connected routers will become the neighbor. R2 has got a neighborship with R1 and R3. R3 has got a neighborship with R2 only. R3 has got a neighbor with R2 only. Like that. So not this, sorry. Okay, where is it? It's here. Let me go to the R3 and show you. Show IP OSPF neighbor. It's fine. Number 2 is my neighbor. If I would like to see the show OSPF database, OSPF database. Now you see that area 1, area 1, area 1. Because we are in area 1, there are area 1 has gotten, this is a process ID which is 3 is running on this. Local router ID is a 333, which is the loopback address configured. Link ID 222 is advertised by the 222, 333 is advertised by 333. This is a router link states. Router link state is nothing but LSA 1. Net link state 192.168.3.1 that has been given on this. How long the entry is in the table it's showing. Summary net link states 1, 2, 192.168. This has been given by R2. Let me see. Show IP OSPF database. You see that? Both the areas are present in the R2 because R2 is talking to, let me go back to the diagram. R2 is talking to R1 and the R3. Means let me take, this is an area 0. And this is again area 0. But this is an area 1 here. It's an area 1. I should say that. It's an area 1. And this is also an area 1. So this router is nothing but an ABR. I can call it as ABR, means area border router. Let me go to the second router, I'll show you. That's why it is having the both the area information. You see that area 0 informations, area 0 information as well as area 1 information also. It's so when I see that routing table, show IP route, I'll be seeing all the routes here. 1, 2, 3, 192.1.0, 3.0, every other outputs are there. When I go to R1, if I see the show OSPF database, you see that only it is showing the area 0 only. What the router 2 is doing it's summarizing all the outputs and it has been sending it. That is called as the summary netlink state. 333 and 3.0. This is coming from the R3, which is in a different area, like an area 1 like that. If I see the routing table, it shows IA. O means OSPF route. It says OSPF. IA means it's an inter area, OSPF inter area route. 333 is coming from area 1. 192.168.3.0 is coming from area 1. That's why it is called as IA route. Let me go to R3. I'll run the same command. You see that 1.1.1 is coming from the router 1, that is in the inter area. 222 is coming from inter area. 192.168.1.0 that is coming from inter area. That's why we are seeing the different outputs. One more thing we can just see, show OSPF border router. OSPF border, I'm making always a mistake. Border routers. You see that border router means ABR. Who is ABR? 222 is a ABR. 222 means router 2 is an ABR. As I told you, this is an ABR because R2 has got an interface present in area 0 also, area 1 also. That's why it has become an ABR. Same command if I give in the R1, I'll be able to see R2 as an area border router. You see that 222 is an area border router. How do I see it in area router 2? Show IP OSPF. OSPF. You see that there are two areas of the backbone area, area 1. There are two areas which has been there. So because it is handling the two areas, that's why it is called as area border router. It is an area border router. We logged into R2. So this is about the brief introductions of the OSPF. How do you configure? How do you verify with the show commands? And what all the outputs are coming up on that? Show IP protocols. Even I can just say that. Show IP protocols. You see that. Router OSPF protocol is 2. Router ID is 222. And it is having the gateway of 1 and 3. First router and third router. What are the routing networks? How many networks are there to getting routed? 2, 1.3, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, everything is. Okay. So we've seen information about the how to configure the OSPF on this, right? So if you have any questions, you can ask me. And I've been talking to you people for last 1.5 hours. You can come back to me for any kind of courses on Cisco and what else? Firewalls, cloud, many other courses as well. I used to do that. I take that. Load balancers, firewalls, any firewalls, checkpoint firewall, Palo Alto firewall. Many firewalls I just used to do. So we can come for those trainings whenever you looking for that. I'm free to take up the sessions on Saturdays, Sundays. as well as in the weekends evening, weekdays evening and weekdays full, not a problem. I can take that. So if you have any questions on your mind, please ask me. Else, and moreover, I would like to have your email addresses to be given to me so that I can send you this PPT and the recording to your email addresses. I will not send any other informations. Please don't worry about that. I'll send you only the necessary information about the PPTs and other things where you can download. So I expect your mail addresses has to be given on Zoom chat. Please give it. If you give your phone number, also nice. Or you can just ping me directly on my WhatsApp number, which is on the screen. Thank you. And people who are watching on the YouTube, this particular video, you can go and comment it out so that I can answer your questions in the YouTube. You can comment sections are open, so you can comment on that. I will be able to answer all your queries and questions and answers and other things. I just give you. Okay. Sitaram sir has given. What about others? Please give everyone. I'm expecting Peter has given. I see how many people are there. Yeah, around 16, 17 people are there. Okay, nice. So please, everyone can give the mail address only. I'm not going to give any other. I'll not disturb you guys like sending so much of promotional mails and all. I will not do that. So I'll send you only what is the necessary information to you. So you can give. Everyone can give your email address. Please give it. I will. And moreover, as a request which I always used to make it to the people, that please introduce my channel to all the people, all your friends, colleagues and relatives, and the foreigners, everyone I can give it to, so that I will be growing as well as you will also grow. So I am very much ready to talk on the tech network and the technical things and all. So we can broaden up the horizons when we are being introduced to the multiple people. So I see many people are watching that in YouTube. I am very much happy about that. So, and please introduce your friends also, and ask them to subscribe to my channel also, so that you will be getting the updates immediately. Whatever the new videos which I am making on that, so you will get that immediately on this. Thank you for all the people who joined today. Thanks, Peter. Thanks everyone. Around 15-16 people were there today. So nice. You in our next half an hour, you'll be seeing this PPT will be sent to your email. And thanks again. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Else, I will be ending up this meeting for today. The next week, definitely, I will be coming up with the new chapter on technically. I'll inform you about the Zoom link and other things to you, all the people. So please do join next week also. Thanks for joining today. Okay, I'm ending this meeting. Thank you very much.
Sir, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thanks all. Thank you. Bye.